Greetings to everyone. I am Bhageshwari Sharma, Assistant Professor of B.Ed at Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Leelavati Munshi College of Education. With the help of this video, I will try to explain the RTE Act 2009. This topic is included in the subject on Historical and Sociological Foundations of Education. The subject code is B.Ed 104. So let us first look at the Indian Constitution and some of its important features. Our Indian Constitution is divided into several parts which are further divided into many articles. For this topic, let us look at Part 3, Part 4 and Part 4A of the Indian Constitution. Part 3 of the Indian Constitution deals with the fundamental rights. Part 4A of the Constitution deals with the fundamental duties, and Part 4 of the Indian Constitution, it deals with the directive principles of state policy. So Part 3 of the Indian Constitution, as I stated earlier, it deals with fundamental rights of citizens. These rights are justiciable and enforceable by the courts of law. The fundamental duties which comes under Part 4A, these are the moral obligations and these are not enforceable by the court of law. The directive principles of state policy are the directives which are needed for framing of certain laws. These are non-binding and these are meant to guide the state. The directive principles of state policy are included under Part 4 of the Constitution. So, if a citizen's fundamental rights are threatened, then that citizen can move to the court of law and ask for its enforcement. Only under extreme circumstances or special circumstances, the fundamental rights of a citizen can be taken away. But it is not the same with the directive principles of state policy and the fundamental duties. So this clearly shows us the significance of fundamental rights over the fundamental duties and the directive principles of state policy, because the fundamental rights are enforceable and these are binding. So now let us move to the framing of the Indian Constitution and how some of the fundamental rights or some of the directive principles of state policy, they were being inserted in the Indian Constitution. Let us go back to the year 1950. So, in the year 1950, when our constitution was being framed and different articles were being inserted in it, in the year 1950 itself, Article 45 was included under the part on Directive Principles of State Policy. This particular article stated that the state shall endeavour to provide within a period of 10 years from the commencement of this constitution for free and compulsory education for all children until they complete the age of 14 years. I am repeating it again. In the year 1950, one article, which was the Article 45, it was included under the Directive Principles of State Policy of Indian Constitution, and this directive stated that the state shall endeavour to provide within a period of 10 years from the commencement of this constitution for free and compulsory education for all children until they complete the age of 14 years. So the framers of the Indian Constitution, they had this goal or agenda in their mind that in the next 10 years, our country will be able to provide elementary education to all children who are in the age group of 6 to 14 years. So this was the goal or this was the agenda in their mind. But this goal could not be achieved. And there were several reasons which led to the failure of the achievement of this goal. So the first reason which led to the failure of the achievement of this goal was the fixed time period. Many people were of the view that this time period was not sufficient for the achievement of such a big goal. The time frame of 10 years, it was not respected. The 10 years time frame was not respected, And the government and the bureaucracy concluded that we do not have adequate financial resources for this goal. So the framers of the constitution, they had this goal or agenda in their mind that in the next 10 years, our country will be able to provide elementary education to all children who are in the age group of 6 to 14 years. But this goal could not be achieved. The time frame of 10 years was never respected, and the government and the bureaucracy, they concluded that we did not have adequate financial resources for the fulfillment of this goal. Many people, they argue that it was an unrealistic goal, and giving just 10 years for such a big target, it was not feasible. So the number of illiterates in our country at that time, it rose from 294.2 million in 1951 to 325.5 million in 1961. So the condition of education, instead of becoming better or instead of improving, it deteriorated. So in the year 2002, a new ray of hope came in the form of the 86th Amendment Act. The 86th Amendment Act, it made 3 specific provisions in the Constitution to facilitate the realization of free and compulsory education. The first provision of the 86th Amendment Act, it led to addition of Article 21A in the part of right to life, which comes under the part on fundamental rights. So one new article, Article 21A, was included in the fundamental rights, which are in the part 3 of the Constitution. Second provision led to modification of Article 45. Article 45 is related to the directive principles of state policy, as I stated earlier. So even this was modified after the 86th Amendment 2002. And the third provision led to amendment of Article 51A. So under the part on fundamental duties, a new clause came and it stated that a parent or a guardian has to provide opportunities for education to his or her child between the age of 6 and 14 years. So with the help of this amendment, the parents and guardians, they were also made responsible, and even they had to ensure that their children are going to schools and getting educated. So in the year 2002, the Constitution Amendment, 86th Amendment, it came in, a Constitution Amendment was made, and in the year 2005, an education bill was formulated or formed by the CABE, which is the Central Advisory Board of Education. A new bill was formulated by the CABE. It was an education bill and it came in the year 2005, but this bill had to face a lot of controversies, and the major cause of controversy was regarding 25% reservation of seats for students belonging to the disadvantaged category in private schools. So the CABE came up with the proposal that now we should reserve 25% of seats for disadvantaged students or children in private schools, and the subcommittee of CABE, it stated that this provision will lead to strengthening of Indian democracy and giving rise to a more egalitarian society. So obviously this initiative was to bring about a more democratic environment, to bring about a more egalitarian society, but many people, they spoke against it, and after a lot of debates and discussions, on August 26, 2009, the bill received presidential assent and it was notified as a law as the Children's Right to Free and Compulsory Act 2009. I'm repeating this point again. On August 26, 2009, the education bill, it received a presidential assent and it was notified as a law, and this law is termed as the Children's Right to Free and Compulsory Education Act 2009. Now let us look at the provisions of the RTE Act 2009. The first provision of the RTE Act 2009 is that it gives right to free and compulsory admission, attendance and completion of elementary education to all children who fall in the age group of 6 and 14 years. Free education means that no child other than a child who has been admitted by his or her parents to a school which is not supported by the appropriate government shall be liable to pay any kind of fee or charges or expenses which may prevent him or her from pursuing or completing elementary education. Compulsory education casts an obligation on the appropriate government and local authorities to provide and ensure admission, attendance, and completion of elementary education by all children in the age group of 6 to 14 years. So now education was made free as well as compulsory for all. It also stated that the non-enrolled or dropped out children should be admitted to age-appropriate classes. So we know that in our country there are many children who are not even enrolled in schools, or if they go to schools then they drop out in between because of several factors. So this particular right, it also took into account these children, and certain provisions were made for their admission also. This also came up with the provision of the no detention policy. Now let us look at the state's responsibility as per the RTE Act 2009. So the responsibilities at various levels were clearly spelled out. The state had to make available a neighborhood school which fulfills prescribed norms for every child within 3 years. Regular monitoring and taking all necessary steps, including removal of all barriers, be it social, economic, academic, physical, etc., so that every child completes elementary education. So the state also had fixed responsibility so that the education system can become more child-friendly and more children can get access to elementary education. Now let us see the provisions for teachers. So the qualification for appointment of teachers were to be laid down by academic authority authorized by the central government. The academic responsibilities of teachers were also clearly laid down. This also prohibits deployment of teachers for non-education purpose except for census, disaster relief, elections to parliament, state legislatures, and local bodies. So now this act also aimed at having better qualified teachers and those teachers who are more motivated and more skilled to perform all their education related functions and who are not overburdened with extra non-educational work. The norms and standards were clearly specified for all schools. The norms related to infrastructure and related facilities were also clearly laid down. So now we are talking about the provisions related to the schools. So in schools, the infrastructural norms were clearly laid down and the pupil-teacher ratio was also fixed. So at the upper level or at the upper primary level, the student-teacher ratio is 35:1 and at the primary level, it is supposed to be 30:1. This act also aims at community participation in schools. So this is another very important point, that community participation is also ensured, and this is done through the SMCs. The SMCs are the school management committees. And as per this act, the SMCs should comprise of elected representatives, teachers and parents. 3/4 members should be parents of children studying in the school. 50% of them should be women. And proportionate representation should be given to weaker and deprived sections of the society. The SMC has to plan, manage and monitor in collaboration with the local authority. So this is another important provision related to school. Schools should also be free from the evil practice of accepting capitation fees. There should be no screening of students during the process of admission, and there should be no schools without any recognition. Another important point is 25% of reservation of seats in all schools except private or unaided minority schools for children belonging to economically weaker section and disadvantaged groups. The RTE Act also aims at coming up with the common school system. So the common school system was also favored by the National Policy of Education 1968, which stated that to promote a social cohesion and national integration, the common school system as recommended by education system should be adopted. So now, almost 4 decades later, in 2009, the articulation of Section 12, Clause 1, Clause C of the Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act, it provided for a similar measure. So now let us look at the implementational status. We have covered the recommendations and we know that the recommendations were extremely essential and they aimed at bringing about a positive change in the field of education. Let us see how the implementation was done. The first point is no universal access. So according to this, although the RTE Act, it aimed at providing elementary education to all children, but now even till today, we do not have a universal access to education. Second point is not completely free education. So we know that RTE Act aimed at bringing about free and compulsory education, but there are certain cases which have been registered and according to them, many schools are taking fees or other extra charges from schools. So this practice is not prevalent in all the schools, but exceptions are there. So free education is not completely being adhered to. Third point is related to ignorance among teachers and guardians about the provisions of the Act. So this is a very sad thing that even after attaining the status of a fundamental right, still many people, they are not aware about the existence of any such right. Next point is pathetic condition of training regarding RTE. So many a times the people, the teachers and other personnel, they are not properly trained regarding the implementation of the RTE. So even this leads to a failure of it. Next point is related to the acute shortage of teachers and teacher absenteeism. So in our country, even in today's time, till today, many teachers they remain absent and we have an acute shortage of teacher. What happens is many a times on record the teachers are coming to school, in the registers their attendance is being marked, but in reality they do not come to schools, and even if they come to schools then they don't teach. So this is another very big problem which is being faced in our schools even today. And sometimes the quality of education is missing. So if teachers are coming to schools, their attendance is being marked, but still they are sitting idle, they are not doing any work, and they are not teaching effectively or properly. So this is another very important problem. Certain schools, they do not have basic amenities. Some of the schools, they don't have basic amenities like drinking water and toilet facilities. Improper distribution of books and uniforms is also there. So under RTE, the people belonging to the EWS category and the DG category, they are supposed to get books and uniforms, but now the distribution of books and uniforms, even that is not proper in some of the schools. Next thing is on the midday meal. It's poor quality. So many a times the midday meal, it is not of good quality. The food which is being served to the children, it lacks proper quality, and there is an absence of mechanism and facilities regarding children with disabilities. So the children with disabilities, they have to suffer even more because there is no proper mechanism to ensure that they are getting proper facilities. So that is another issue. Let us now focus on the recommendations for effective implementation of the RTE Act. The first recommendation is to focus on quality rather than sheer enrollment numbers. There should be relevant curriculum reform and focus on raising standards in government school, particularly in underperforming states. Technical support should be there to develop context-based strategies and formulation of norms to ensure 25% reservation to children from economically weaker sections. So we need to focus more on the quality of education which is being provided to the children and not on the quantity or on the number of children who are being enrolled. Curriculum reform should be done so that the curriculum can be made more child friendly and students are motivated to study. Government schools and their standards, they should be raised. The standards of teaching or the quality or the infrastructure in government schools, especially in the rural areas or underperforming states, their standards should be raised. We should also be having proper technical support to develop context-based strategies and formulation of norms to ensure 25% reservation to children belonging to economically weaker sections. In the schools, we should also ensure that equal and equitable treatment is made to all children. So in the schools, we have to ensure that no student is discriminated on the basis of caste, color, creed, religion or sex, and equal and equitable treatment should be given to all children. Training of teachers in requisite classroom management skills should also be done. So during the process of the teacher education itself, the teachers should be well trained. They should be able to deal with the classroom problems with those students who take more time to learn things, or they should take into account the individual differences. We should also develop quality standards for teacher training. So during the process of teacher training, as I stated earlier, the quality of teacher training or teacher education should be improved. Reform of in-service teacher education. So in-service teacher education should also undergo certain reforms and changes. The teachers should be motivated to participate in continuous professional development activities so as to hone their teaching skills. Popularization of ACT among the masses. Yes, this is another very important point. We had discussed it earlier that many a times people are not even aware about the existence of any such act. Is related to the grievance mechanism. We should be having a proper mechanism for registering of grievances or complaints or problems of the people, and these grievances should be properly redressed. Another recommendation is related to relooking at the retention and the transition, which is the no detention policy. So as we know that many a times the no detention policy proves to be counterproductive because the children, they are not taught properly and they are promoted to the next class. So something needs to be done with the no detention policy. Here I want to make a very important point which is related to the amendment of the no detention policy. So when the RTE Act became a right in 2010, it became a fundamental right. So after that, in the subsequent years, several amendments were also made to that right. And in the year 2019, an important amendment took place which is related to the no detention policy. So under 16 clause 1 of the RTE Amendment Act 2019, there shall be a regular examination in the 5th class and in the 8th class at the end of every academic year. If a child fails in the examination, he or she shall be given additional instruction and granted opportunity for re-examination within a period of 2 months from the date of declaration of the result. If these children still do not pass the exam, the state government may decide to detain them. As per the amendment, it would be left to the states to decide whether to continue the no detention policy or not. So this is a very important point. We have to pay attention to it. And as per the RTE Amendment Act 2019, the no detention policy, it has been altered. So now the students, they have to take an exam in class 5th and in 8th, and if they fail in that exam, then they have to sit for a re-exam. So for the re-examination, these students will be given remedial classes, and after a period of 2 months, they'll be sitting for the re-exam. And if these children still do not pass the exam, then the state government may decide to detain them. So this is a major amendment or a major alteration in the RTE Amendment Act, which came up in 2019. And according to this, it would be left to the states to decide whether to continue with the no detention policy or not. So in the end, I would like to reiterate that the right to education is anchored in the belief that the values of equality, social justice, and democracy and the creation of a just and humane society can be achieved through the provision of inclusive elementary education to all. Thank you.